I would like to call this meeting to order, seeing as we do have a quorum. In fact, I believe we have everybody here. Before we do a roll call, could we, wait, let's go ahead and do the roll call, and then let's get Kelly into the meeting.
Noack.
Here.
Wilbeck.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Althoff.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Von Bergen.
Here.
Thorson.
Here. I think I need a motion to allow Kelly to join this meeting remotely.
I'll make that motion, sir.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Tracy seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Moving right along, we have minutes approval. Has everybody had the opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any amendments or changes to those minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make it.
Bob Noack and John Young. Bob made the motion and John second.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Althoff.
Yes.
Wagner. Wilbeck.
Here.
Noack.
Yes.
Thorson.
Yes. At this time, we reserve some time for public comment. Did we have anybody that signed in for public comment today?
No.
Okay, seeing as we have no public comment, do we have members' comments? I see no comments. Okay. Moving right along then, today we want to have some communication with our local representatives, chiefly regarding the township situation with the McHenry County Township being the, or McHenry County being the single county in the state of Illinois that's subject to dissolution of townships by referendum, and the ramifications of that, and how they affect us, and what we're learning as, because we've been going through committee and committee to determine what does the fallout look like for McHenry County, and what we're doing to try to basically, we're trying to kind of build the plane while it's in the air right now, and we were kind of relying on our representatives to be aware that we are running into some difficulty, and we wanted to have some comment with regard to potential alternatives to the current situation. But before we do that, we would like to have each of the representatives here have an opportunity to speak for about 3 minutes. And as you can see on the agenda, we are starting today with Senator Dan McConchie. Dan is not here. His District Operations Director, John Pisciani. Thank you, John. Thank you. Would you like to come forward and just speak for a couple of minutes, please? Thank you. You can sit right by Tom by that microphone there, or you can sit right there, too. That's perfect.
That's perfect. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
So Senator McConchie wanted me to go over some of the legislation that was brought before the state legislature this year that will have an impact on local government and law enforcement agencies at a state level and at a county level. So recently passed legislation includes House Bill 3653, the so-called Safety Act, which passed in the middle of the night during the final hour of the lame duck session. It ends the use of cash bail, severely limits police use of force, forces unfunded body camera mandates on local governments, places a ban on surplus e-equipment, includes changes to the certification and decertification process, and gives the Attorney General the power to investigate civil lawsuits against police agencies. Excuse me. Leader McConchie voted no, as did the rest of the Senate Republican caucus, noting concerns with public safety, unfunded mandates, extra constraints on law enforcement and local governments. Pending legislation that could be refiled for the spring 2022 session includes House Bill 1727, which would remove qualified immunity as a defense at the state level by making a police officer accused of violating someone's individual rights liable. The bill passed the House Restorative Justice Committee on a 4-2 partisan roll call, but was held on second reading in the House. Although the bill was held on second reading, the issue is still being discussed in the Task Force on Constitutional Rights and Remedies, which was created by the Safety Act. Those in opposition have argued that removing qualified immunity could create financial difficulties for municipalities and counties. The Illinois Municipal League is in opposition to efforts to decrease, diminish, or remove qualified immunity for lawful actions, as well as any new or expanded mandates without adequate funding or support. Members of the Senate Republican caucus have proposed multiple pieces of legislation in response to criminal justice overreach that we've seen over this past
John,
year.
I do apologize.
Oh,
We do have to keep moving forward on this because we have 3 minutes for each of the individuals. That leaves us with about, literally, we've got to get them moving through
Oh,
right now.
sure.
Because we want to have a conversation.
Yeah, no,
about-
definitely.
About a specific issue that's pertinent to McHenry County.
Yeah.
I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's
but,
fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, moving right along. Thank you, Senator, for coming today. If you would, please come forward and give us a 3-minute, just a bullet point, quick
Understood.
overview of what's going on, and then we're going to go into a discussion, okay?
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, good morning, everyone. Great to be in McHenry County this morning. Really happy to see Rebuild Illinois money working on Route 47 this morning. That's why I'm a little bit late. I apologize. So, I have just a couple of brief points. In the spirit of full disclosure, I did have a chance to come up several weeks ago and meet with Chairman Bueller to talk about your legislative agenda for this year, so I won't go into a lot of detail on that. Most significantly, number one, I have been written out of most of McHenry County in the new redistricting process, so I'm very disappointed to see that. I've gotten to know a lot of folks and made a lot of friends up here in McHenry County, so I'm really disappointed. I will stay kind of in the Crystal Lake in the Hills corridor, so about 10% of my remaining district will remain in McHenry County, but great relationships. I intend to stay fully engaged with the business that McHenry County does on a daily basis. Rebuild Illinois will be my concentration in fiscal 22. There was over $200 million appropriated to the 33rd Senate District, the current 33rd Senate District, and I would share that a significant amount of that those dollars will be coming to the Route 47 project, which will be rebuilding 47 through Woodstock and various pieces between here and Huntley, and then further north to the border. So anxious to see that rolling. I'm going to be watching the federal appropriation for infrastructure dollars very carefully. I think with the Rebuild Illinois bill from 2 years ago, the state is in very good shape with regards to matching funds to be able to take advantage of those federal dollars that will be coming over. So with that, I will be happy to, I know you want to keep it brief,
Yeah.
and I don't want to steal any thunder from my colleagues
We
who are behind
certainly-
me.
We really want everybody to participate
Sure.
in the main discussion when we get to it. We just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to kind of brief us quickly and then.
Understood. Unfortunately, I need to scoot out of here for a commitment at Elgin Community College at 10 o'clock. Happy to stay for a short time, but
We're
we'll have
trying to
skate
get
out.
you guys all out of here by 10 o'clock.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
If there's no questions, I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
I'm from Crystal Lake, so I.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
We'll see you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Moving right along here, Senator Craig Wilcox. Would you please join us? Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be back at a committee hearing. With what you heard, we'll talk a little bit about what to expect from the legislative session. They've compacted the legislative session this year. We'll go back January 4th and attempt to finish up by April 8th. We'll be down there every week, but 3 weeks, so it'll look like a full-time legislature for once. Very doubtful that we get to a budget resolution by April 8th. Tax returns won't have been filed, but the governor's budget address will be moved up. It'll come earlier in February, so we'll get a little earlier look at what we think the administration will do with the leftover federal funding. Apparently, last year's budget bill allows the governor to spend billions of that dollar without legislative input, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the budget. Legislatively, I've been hearing rumors that the majority party is going to be limited on the number of bills that they get to file or attempt to push. I presume that will fall to us as well, so it'll be a very probably quiet legislative session as far as controversial stuff. So as I look through the legislative priorities, we'll see which ones of those may come up. I doubt we'll see township dissolution addressed in this session. So we'll see how that goes. I suspect we'll go back in May to finalize the budget, and then with obviously the primary in January, make sure you get those tax bills out so voters have that fresh in their mind when they're voting. I love that the primary's in June for that reason. I think it should be there all the time, but I doubt that that'll stay for the long term. And then I suspect we'll go back multiple times like we did this summer once we get past that primary to address issues that we didn't take up in those first 3.5 months. So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Can
Very
I,
much.
is it appropriate, I don't know if the senator has time to stay, but might you give real quickly a brief update on the efforts that you've been doing with regard to McHenry County and the Regional Office of Education and
So,
those?
obviously, you've had some issues there. Been working with Pam on looking at how to redress the requirements. Tried to do a little walkthrough of how the requirements match up with the roles and responsibilities of the regional superintendent position to make sure that if we're set on certain requirements, that they actually have a match to the roles and responsibilities, and if they don't, looking at alternative aspects. We've had examples in the past where we've made changes. The Democrats looked to make changes this past year in certain positions, starting with Lake County Public Works Director. So we know they're potentially amenable to it. The question is, will we be able to get that on the agenda this year in time for you guys to get to the next cycle? So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Moving right along is Representative Steve Reich or someone from his office here. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. There you are. You're muted. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there I am over on the right side. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. I'll stick around for the county discussion, but the things that are my top priorities going into the spring session. And as Craig said, we're going to be limited in the amount of legislation that we're going to be able to try to pass through, but being in a super minority, that happens to us all the time anyway, so, it's nothing new there. The discussion of qualified immunity, I think, is a big one for this county that needs to be continually addressed. I spoke the other day with the Crystal Lake Police Chief, and he was quite adamant in the fact that he's having a hard time filling slots for new officers, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that people just don't want to step up and put their entire lives at risk just for doing their job. The construction issue, the Route 47 expansion, and all the other things that are going on in McHenry County are a top priority as well. And I'm keeping a close eye on what's coming out in terms of funding from the federal side. Obviously, it's, a work in progress, but I'm very heartened by the fact that we appear to be going forward with the construction projects that were put on the books in the last go around. And last time I talked to the director at IDOT to go over the projects for McHenry County specifically, it seems that we are on target with everything that was appropriated and approved, and we're going to see shovels in the ground sooner rather than later. Finally, for the past couple of years, I've been working on a working group that has focused on the problems with the Department of Children and Family Services, especially as they relate to the office here in McHenry County. There appears to be some movement in terms of improvement of that office, but I am going to continue with my efforts to make DCFS a lot more accountable to the people of McHenry County and the state of Illinois. Finally, this governor has in my opinion, run roughshod over the appropriations process simply because he's got the ability to spend all this COVID money that has come into the state without legislative input. We are now $4.4 billion in the hole to the federal government, to the unemployment as a deficit in our unemployment trust fund, and we're growing. We're accruing interest at a rate of about $300,000 a day. That must come out of general revenue if we don't pay this down. He failed to use COVID money or ARPA money for the purpose of paying that back, which he was within his rights to do. And I'm very concerned by the fact that he's shoveling money into general revenue projects and thus freeing up general revenue money to do other things. And I'm just worried that what's going to happen is when these things hit, we're going to end up with those as part of our budget baseline, and it's going to result in even more cost to the people of Illinois when we can least afford it. So that's an overview of my interests and my legislative priorities for the upcoming session. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much. At this moment, I'd like to ask Representative Tom Weber to step forward and just give us a brief overview of what's going on with your perspective.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm kind of happy to be here and hear what your opinions are on some legislation that we've been fighting for years, the 3 years that I've been in office. As far as my plans, Steve, Representative Reich had mentioned DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services, has lost too many children that are under their watch, and that is something that Steve and I are both on the committee and will continue to fight to improve that. We have a lot of local dollars. They're sent to Springfield and don't come back. One of my plans is to try to come up with initiatives, which we have a few, to try to improve our natural resources, help fight against a lot of the flooding issues in my district, and also to try to bring in more tourism dollars, kind of all in one scope of improving our Chain of Lakes and Fox River. Other things, the defund the police movement, do anything we can to stop that. That is, I have not talked to a constituent yet that supports any of that, so that is something that I hope doesn't come up, but we want to continue to fight. And just try to get more involved with different villages, get back to normal. Hopefully the COVID restrictions start dropping down so people can start coming regularly to meetings and out to my office. And going to Springfield and not having anyone allowed to come into my office, constituents or anything, is one of the hardest things has been for me, because my first year there, that was one of the most educational things, and also a great way for people to come and explain their issues, which everyone's got different issues. So, without them being able to come to my office, you don't get the same response over the phone or over video. So, anyway, hoping they can get things back to normal and do whatever I can to help McHenry. And
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Representative Daniel Gosti. Dan, I see you're there. Thank you for being with us. 3 minutes, give us a quick rundown of what's going on, and then we're going to go on and talk about a specific issue with regard to McHenry County.
Sure, I'm going to make it as quick as I can, because unfortunately I'm supposed to be in another meeting right now, and I'm postponing that to this. So thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate being here. Just start out to let you know, much like Senator DeWitt, my district's been changed greatly, and unfortunately this will be my last year, 2022, representing a portion of McHenry County, unless something drastically changes. The second map was passed, doesn't have me in McHenry. None of the proposed changes would have me in McHenry. So unless the court does something on their own, I unfortunately will not represent McHenry County. After this, I greatly enjoyed doing it. Wonderful people. And the county should know, I think very highly of it, and you'll always have a friend in me. So feel free to reach out in the future, even after 2022, assuming I'm still in the General Assembly. Just a quick another update on what's happening. Everyone's talked a little bit about the qualified immunity issue and what's going on. I'm the House Republican member for the task force. We went through the recommendations the various representatives that are on that task force were making yesterday. And something that the Council of Governments is going to want to know about is they're saying that the people who are advocating changing qualified immunity, for the most part, are indicating that their plan isn't to put it on the backs of police officers. Let's just put it on the backs of local government to have to pay for what they're viewing as just an added cost when someone has a right violated and the qualified immunity is done away with. So that is something the Council of Governments is going to want to pay close attention to. Our next meeting is December 8th. It is online. If anyone needs to find out how to get online, please contact my office. I'd be happy to allow you or make sure that you or your chiefs or whoever wants to be there can participate. What I'm focused on for the next year is the same things I've been focused on, making Illinois a much more livable place for everybody, including for our area as well as the entire state. We have issues that'd be so simple to fix if we just address them, but I'm going to keep pressing for these issues. Things such as workers' compensation reform. These are reforms that are simple reforms, that not over the top. They would still protect our workers and our employees and yet provide savings for employers. It means not just private employers, but also for government employers and taxpayers. It would mean we'd be able to possibly pass along tax savings to all our constituents, state, county, and local government level. I also will continue to work on property tax reform. I have a number of bills filed for that as well, for what can be done at the state level. And then finally, one of my main pushes, and one I will continue working on, is to protect our way of government here in the state of Illinois. I believe there's been significant overreach for the past 2 years almost of a governor who has reached far beyond the authority ever intended to be given to him in handling the pandemic without any legislative input. The Emergency Management Act shouldn't be read to be a continual 30-day proclamation for as long as the governor decides he wants to do it. I have a bill that would immediately change that, and the governor would have to go back to the legislature after the initial 30 days in order to continue an emergency declaration for the same emergency. I believe it's only appropriate, it's only right, it's only fair. An entire branch of government, the state legislature, has been sidelined by this, and I will continue to push to have that done. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and I apologize for not being able to stay beyond this.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for the time that you could. Thank you. Okay, moving along here, welcome back again to another of our former county board members, Representative Suzanne Ness. Suzanne, if you would, please come forward and just give us a little brief synopsis of what's going on, and
Sure.
and then we're going to discuss other issues,
Yes.
kind of in a more forum type manner.
Okay, well, great. Well, sorry I was late. Thank you for inviting me, and it's great to be here and see so many familiar faces. It was a very busy year, and my first year there, so, and of course everybody's told me that that's not normal, so I still don't know what normal is, and can't really answer that question. But going forward and looking forward, a couple of things I'm working on, continued from what I've done, is I see in your packet about consolidation, and it's just a tough question, right? Like, it's every time it comes up, it flares up so many other issues, and so one of the bills I'm working on is an incentive bill, and rather than looking at it from the other side of how do we, save money through eliminating governments, what if we looked at ways to incentivize and encourage collaboration among entities? And I learned that right here at McHenry County through the use of IGAs. The shared services study that you did was amazing. I've talked about that and shared that with other legislators as well, because I think that that's a way that we can start looking at encouraging that once governments see the benefit of working together. I can tell you that's not, McHenry County does it well, but that's not everywhere. And so that's been something that I'm working on, and I have a bill related to that. The question of public safety, I am in agreement with all of my colleagues in the room And I've met monthly with local law enforcement, chiefs from the district, because I want to know firsthand what is the impact of this legislation and what is the message I need to bring back and the questions I need to ask to make sure that community safety, and that's number one, because that's really what's at stake here and what people care about. I've heard the morale issues and the issues with recruiting. I've shared them with leaders in the House because I feel like that's something that's not being spoken at the table. I had a conversation with the speaker a couple weeks ago related to that. So it is my continued commitment to bring that message forward and to make sure that any trailer bills, which there will be, they will be coming. That legislation that was passed in January will continue to be refined and before things are actually implemented. So reporting, there's just like the infrastructure is not even in place for some of the things they want to do. And that's really important to not put that legislation before we actually have the means to carry it forward. So those are things that I'm working on. I also have a couple of very active citizen advisory committees around senior care. I would love to see legislation. I'm working on a bill that allows people in hospice, in nursing homes, to at least have the dignity of a private room when they're in that end-of-life moment. I had a terrible experience of a constituent over the summer whose loved one was in hospice. They were on Medicaid. It's unconscionable how that occurs. So that's something I'm really interested in. And then developmental disabilities is the other issue. So Medicaid rate reform is something that's happening right now, making sure that we're increasing Medicaid repayments to facilities so that we can continue to have facilities that take Medicaid. I think that's a big issue as well. And lastly, one of the other commitments I made in this role and that I'm continuing is bringing and shining the spotlight on our district, getting decision makers coming to the district so that as some of these things come forward, whether that's in the form of resources and dollars that we're bringing here, that decision makers know, people at the state know what we have here and what's available. So for example, I hosted a roundtable at a local manufacturer. I invited people from across the state to Auto Engineering. We toured the facility, their technical training facility, to increase the use of how do we get skilled workers. This is a huge issue. So with the workforce dollars coming to the state right now, I want to see some of that money coming to the district. And we certainly have the means to do it. We have the infrastructure here in place, and I want to make sure that that we get some of those dollars here. So those are some of the things I'm working on. I'm happy to be here and to hear what McHenry County's got going on, because there's some good stuff here. So.
Well, thank you, Suzanne, very much. And last but not least, Marty McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Could you give us the brief 3-minute tour?
I will be extremely brief, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Everybody can join us at the table or however you want to do it, because the microphones are here, and I think that everyone who wants to speak, we need to make sure that your voice is heard. So
Great. Thank you for the invitation. I'll be extremely brief. I'm very interested in what's on the agenda. As a former mayor of a town with 4 townships and 4 counties, I completely understand what you guys are about to go through, so I'm looking forward to the conversation. I will be here for it. Quick comments about the last session. Public safety to me is one of the biggest threats right now for our small businesses in our communities and in major cities. And I was actually shocked that qualified immunity was even a consideration. It's as if the money comes from somewhere else. Towns receive taxes from taxpayers, and if qualified immunity actually is removed, we're all on the hook. So the fact that this is even a conversation boggles my mind. I've got a simple solution, though. If we're going to remove qualified immunity for officers, we should remove legislative immunity for legislators. I believe that would immediately end that conversation. There's several bills that passed through the House attempting to provide voting rights to incarcerated individuals, individuals with felony records, individuals detained in county jails. These are all pending. I found that to be quite interesting, that we are looking to protect those individuals more than a mother that's given birth at a hospital that can't get to a voting booth. So very frustrating to see these ideas not only come forward, but supported by many of my colleagues. The ICE detainee contract that I believe you correctly approved at this board after much discussion and upheld, protecting your citizens, again, public safety, hopefully will be upheld in the courts. I think the governor, again, as Representative Ugasti said, far exceeded his legislative authority in that regard. My objective is to find bills that make government more efficient. I had one brought to the floor, 680. related to oversight and streamlining sections of bids and contracts at county and municipal levels. I believe I've garnered the support from both sides, so I will be bringing that forward in the spring. That can have a significant tax impact at local, county, and state levels. So a lot of work's gone behind that, but I think I've got buy-in from both sides of the aisle. The final thing is anything that reduces regulations and laws, I will be supportive of. I think I was in the top 10% of no voters at the state legislature with the 6,500 bills. I would ask my colleagues and residents to identify 10 that have significantly changed their lives. I believe going to Springfield and writing bills isn't what we're there for. It's to make the lives easier for our constituents. So I'll do anything possible to make that happen. So I will sit back and enjoy the conversation and participate, but I'm very much looking forward to the township consolidation or the township, I guess I should say, efficiency study. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to invite everybody back to the table, if you would, please. You don't have to if you don't want to, but we have some extra available seats here. All the microphones are here on the table. So we would like to hear from you as we go into this discussion. And I guess the first thing I'd like to just point out, and just to give everybody an idea where we're headed. Pam, you kind of put the whole thing in a nutshell at our last meeting. Basically, we have an ask, and our ask basically is that we're one county that's affected by legislation in the state. Pam, I'm gonna ask you, do you recall?
I don't remember exactly what
Well-
I said, but it seemed to me that it was an unfair advantage, and we had a choice. You either rescind it and don't make McHenry County special, or you apply it to everybody in the state of Illinois. There was absolutely no reason to specifically cite one county, and in particular McHenry. We're not the largest county. We're not the smallest county. I have no, recollection of any conversation on why that was important. So as you, the legislators, are here speaking for the committee and the chair, I think our ask is one or the other. Either take that burden away from us, as you can see by the study that I believe was available to everyone. There are a lot of questions, so we would ask either take it away from us or apply it to the entire count, the other 101 counties that are in the state of Illinois.
Thank you, Pam. And it's as simple. I think it's as simple as that. That is the ultimate goal. We would like to get our hands around either being free of this legislation or being a part of the legislation that is administered statewide. We certainly don't want to be necessarily, especially after we've gone through, each committee, I believe, has had an opportunity to take a look at this to some extent. This has not gone before. We don't have a proclamation before us or anything like that for the board, the McHenry County Board, to submit or to discuss. That would be when you're hearing directly from the board. We are merely a committee that wanted to reach out to our legislators and explain to you our quandary, because we're discovering things in each and every meeting that I attend with regard to how this and from very different aspects of how this consolidation is possibly really going to shake out if it indeed becomes successful. I think we see some inequities that are potentially there that are actually very possible. And we also see an issue with regard to the ultimate benefit to the taxpayers is still dubious, to say the least. With that, I'd like to open the table up, and whoever wants to volunteer to kind of jump in. Suzanne, thank you.
No, there was a bill. So Representative Jonathan Carroll brought the bill that you're referring to the counties and townships this past session, scratched out the word McHenry County and put, state of Illinois, and that was it. Made no fundamental changes to it. Because I was here when that happened, I knew that there were issues with it, and it's failed 2 challenges now, votes. So I opposed it. It didn't get through committee, but it did come forward. And that's what I said, unless you're going to make some fundamental changes to this, get some feedback, come to McHenry County and find out why it's not good legislation. Then I don't think it should be applied statewide. So just to let you know that was out there, and they tried to get that through.
Well,
Good, you have.
Alicia, you'd like to speak?
Yes, sir. I understand the townships are a bit of a sore issue here, but there are ways that we can improve the legislation too. You know, the county is engaged in over 2 years now of looking at the township consolidation legislation. And if you look at your handout here, there are 3 main things that we need. First, like Pam said, apply it to all the different counties. 2, taxation remedies. There are different portions of taxes that are not allocated specifically to McHenry County. That needs to be remedied in order for the county to be able to perform the services of a township. Third one, we need some additional administrative efficiency measures. Now, there's 11 different items on this sheet that would improve the legislation drastically. But at the end of the day, you only got 3 minutes to speak, so I'm not going to take up your time. But if we are going to expand this legislation, these are the measures that we would need to make it viable here in McHenry County.
Senator Cox.
So on the township and road district levy, if we actually get the opportunity to modify this bill, would McHenry County be supportive of tighter control in the sharing mechanism with the municipalities? In other words, today, the road district commissioners have a little bit of flexibility. We certainly have one that seems to have maximized the dollars that are put in the fund that the township controls and minimize the funds put in that which is shared with municipalities. Would you be accepting of language that would be more strict on how that sharing mechanism would have to play out if any of these were to dissolve and the county were to take over?
I'm not sure. Anybody have a thought on that particular issue?
I guess, Senator, is that in lieu of sharing this across the state of Illinois, or are you just suggesting that if it stays just in McHenry County?
So I'm looking at the taxation remedy in the first one, talking about, making sure that all the levy authority is vested in the county. That's one issue that is occurring in McHenry County and maybe in a couple other places in the state, regardless of whether we get a bill that makes this applicable statewide or it remains applicable only to McHenry. I'm just looking for thoughts on that if we're going to make some changes, because I'm looking at filing a bill that will address the dollar sharing in townships across the state. I just wanted to have the county view on that.
Sure. Can I?
Certainly, Carol.
Sorry.
Why
And I think
Why don't you guys come up?
Yeah.
that's
You
exactly,
too. Why don't
I
you
think
come
that's
sit up here?
a really good point. Sorry. I'll just come a little closer. But I think that's the point that we were trying to make even before, and I've been involved in when it was consolidation, I've been involved with this issue for probably 6 years. But your point of asking us, and then when this legislation was passed, we were never asked. We were never engaged in that process. And I think that's the biggest issue and the fundamental issue that we had with it is, and then it was presented as a pilot program, that we're this test program. But so we're being test subjects and we never even knew it. And I think that if you're going to create a pilot program, the whole concept is to work together to find what's going to work. And, asking those questions are valid ones. I think there's a lot of consolidation that can occur or efficiencies that can occur. I mean, we've done it. And I think that, we potentially could be a good role model for it, as Suzanne mentioned. But we want to be engaged in that process. Because in answering it, kind of off the cuff is not the way to do it. It's really, working together and understanding how we can make it work, and then actually creating a pilot program, but having it with everyone that wants to be involved.
So the challenge, obviously the sponsor of this bill is no longer in the General Assembly, and those that pushed it, many of them are no longer in the General Assembly. So I don't know of anyone that has taken this as their mantle and is leading this other than maybe Representative Yingling and Carroll in the House side. So.
Well,
I would ask, what about the it also includes like 30 days, right? If there was something in there that if it passed, then you had 30 days, which I think is just, I mean, is that even possible? I feel like you have to go through an entire budget cycle
Yeah.
to really be able to dissolve, right? And that was the other big issue for me, so.
And there were additional questions with regard to that as well. You know, what do you do with the assets? I mean, there's a whole host of questions that we have investigated, thank you to staff, and there's a whole list of them, and that's what we're saying too. We don't even have direction from that statute on how to apply any of those things. So 30 days, 90 days, whatever it is absolutely unrealistic when we don't have direction. And that's part of what we're saying too. Again, it was, we understand some of the historical background behind that legislation, but it was poorly thought out. It's going to be poorly executed. It's going to be another mess unless we fix it, or unless you repeal it, or unless we actually apply it to everybody and get better direction.
Okay, I'd like to give the floor to Kelly, and after I
Sorry,
just
I'm
want to
sorry,
make a
thank you.
comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion, and really, I'm glad that all the legislators are here. I think this has kind of been discussed in a bubble. So, well, two bubbles. One down in Springfield. It was not everybody knows who voted on it, what the repercussions are going to be. And then we have the bubble up here in McHenry, and we're applying it to ourselves only because that's what the legislation says. But I would hope that the legislators could form some sort of task group or committee to research this and include not only representatives from the county, but maybe other counties who could be interested in this or who it would affect. And that way we could look at the overall effect on all the counties. And there's probably some things that we as a county aren't even thinking of, some forms of efficiencies or economies of scale that would work other places. So we can discuss this all we want, and we have these guidelines and recommendations, but I would really think that something in Springfield should be put together with the input of other counties, and that way we can get more ideas. Thank you.
Okay, really quick, I just wanted to touch base on, yes, Steve?
Yeah, hi there. First of all, I'm coming at this from the standpoint of the fact that I am a strong supporter of the small c Catholic notion of subsidiarity, and that to the extent that we can have people being governed by the governmental body that's closest to them, we're all better off. So that's where I'm coming from here. I fought against this legislation when Representative McSweeney put it forth a couple of years ago. I fail to see how we are going to save money by moving government functions, which will not be done away with simply because the unit of government has been done away with, but moving them up into a more consolidated and probably more expensive venue. I'm looking at this. The county will do the levy on all township roads. All animals are not created equal in McHenry County. We know that. 90% tax cap on dissolved township. If you can show me 10% of township expenses that are going to be saved by consolidating, because I think McSweeney's basic premise was the fact that we're being charged 10% too much on on our township levies because of administrative costs. I don't see it, and I also think that whatever happens with consolidation of the various functions of township government up to the county level is going to more than offset that 10% supposed savings. And finally, you're going to exempt township and road district bond obligations from the 90% levy cap. All you're going to do is encourage borrowing on behalf of the townships. There's going to be a rush to go out and issue bonds, and there you go. You're not going to be doing this on the basis of current need and current levy and explaining why it is you need to do these things at the township level. You're going to go out and borrow. You're going to end up having to pay that money back with a levy that does not affect the rest of the county, but is done within the township, if I'm reading this correctly. So there's a lot of problems here, and a task force at the state level, as long as this proposal is McHenry County only, I need to see a cost analysis coming out of McHenry County rather than doing some task force down in Springfield that'll sit on its thumbs for 6 months and come up with nothing.
Thank you, Steve. I just wanted to mention that, you know, I was on this committee, a few of us were on this committee back when this thing passed, and we learned about it after it had already passed. And that was very embarrassing because it directly affected McHenry County. Obviously, we had, maybe by design, no communication between us. Perhaps it was, you know, failing on our part, but whatever it was, you know, we have a law government legislative committee that, you know, just finds out that the state has passed specific legislation that pertains only to McHenry County. We had no idea. So we had no input, we had no opportunity to discuss that. Again, that I don't know, that may have been by design, I don't know. As far as that 10%, you know, even if it's a segregated type of a levy, I mean, we would still be able to, I would imagine, do things under PTEL, and in a few years that 10% is going to be quickly washed away. So I don't think that we're really, I think I think that's kind of almost an insult, to be honest with you. But I just want to, I want our legislators to understand our frustration because, you know, this whole thing happened without our input. And now, as we go through our committees, and Scott can attest to this, we've got a whole list of things that we believe that weren't considered. I guess you call them a list of unintended consequences that are very concerning to all of us, and they should be. So that being said, I look forward to hearing more discussion, but I really hope that we send home the message that you put us, I mean, not you in particular, but the state has put us in a very precarious, I believe, situation here, because not only are we trying to invent how we're going to design this product or this shadow of what the township used to be to implement the absorption of it, there might be legal remedies or legal issues that occur that we might be subject to. So, and I know we haven't really even thought about that, but there's going to be somebody that feels that their township got mishandled over a consolidation, because if I have 17 townships in McHenry County and only one of them consolidates, and you have commingling of funds potentially, although we can work on that, but there's all kinds of different aspects that could overlap. And I guess one of my biggest concerns is the potential inequity that the rest of the county residents could have to absorb personally the expenses of a township that decided unilaterally to consolidate. And that certainly is not a situation that I think is equitable by any means. Thank you. Senator.
Peter, can I ask a question? At the state level with counties, are they even discussing this bill? Have they even looked at it? Is there any indication they're worried it'll apply statewide with John Carroll's bill last year, or are they?
I'm not aware that ISACO was picking this up.
Not even addressing it?
No, and I mean, to be fair, we're kind of at a spot where we are kind of generating the discussion, but I'm not aware that they've taken this up.
Okay.
It's I can answer that it's not part of their legislative agenda at all.
Right. So, in looking at the efficiency measures on the back, certainly understand the potential issue with the employment. What long-term contracts do you have in mind with the second one? Were there certain instances of contracts that any of the townships that considered this referendum in the past had that really highlighted concern?
You could have union contracts, I guess that's probably the number one concern, but you could have, software contracts, copier contracts.
With law firms, I mean, if there are different things that we have to absorb, I mean, there are different ways that we can do cost savings. For example, if you have an IT contract, the county has an entire department of IT specialists, and if it goes on for years, then how can we achieve the CX savings that we want? We have a state's attorney's office that provides legal counsel. If you have a long-term retainer with an attorney's office, how would that work? there are many different ways that we've had cost savings. It's not, that there are many different contracts that, the county can be able to provide services more efficiently.
So what you're looking for there is general language that gives some legal bounds that contracts signed by a dissolved township become null and void. The county could then either continue them or choose to terminate.
Either make them null and void or even in a less confrontational position. In that lame duck period, if it's a contract over X thousands of dollars, it needs to be jointly agreed by that lame duck township and the county board.
Okay.
New dump trucks, those kinds of things that might be paid over a period of years, we'd like to have a say in that.
Yep. Certainly understand number 3, co-signature once the vote is done. Number 4, this was one that I thought when I first got down there and asked to have it put in. And the concern was that a dissolved township should not have its assets provided for the benefit of the county to be used around the county since they were purchased with township resident funds. But I get it, right, that a snowplow truck maybe is better efficiently used throughout. So that was one of the questions or concerns I had with the bill as originally done, and obviously it was amended to include this language that you're asking to be freely shared. Could we come up with language on the types of assets that would make more sense to be freely shared? I mean, I'm presuming you're talking about road district equipment as opposed to parks, physical buildings, and type stuff. So if there's a way to define the type of assets we're looking for, I think we can probably get to a solution on that to both protect the residents that I was concerned about and to allow for the efficiencies, if that's what your intent was. Or what I was trying to preclude was a township dissolving, the county at the time dissolving all of those assets, then using those funds countywide as opposed to in the township in particular.
Tom, I'd like to give the floor. I saw that you had indicated you wanted to speak.
Yeah, just a couple things. Well, I was going to mention that a lot of the townships in Lake County where I live have shared contracts with like Pace buses, where everyone's paying a certain percentage to have their, so what happens with them. Snow plowing contracts with villages and the county, where the township trucks are able to do it better, things like that. So I did hear someone say that this is, people trying to pass good legislation. I just want to point out that oftentimes, especially when you have representatives like the ones that were pushing this, that don't even live in the areas that it affects, are purely political. And we've seen that as a county board member in McHenry County for 6 years. We had saw language that was any county that borders with Wisconsin, borders Lake Michigan, and borders Cook County, this county has to do this. Well, that's called special legislation. It's unconstitutional in the state of Illinois. In my opinion, this legislation is unconstitutional in the state of Illinois. Representative Reich and I fought this in the House and fought against people in our own party too, because there were so many unanswered questions. Who takes over shared services for people that would be out on the street or in public aid, that they're not able to get that assistance to help pay their, heating bill in the winter or something that's to be able to stay in their house. Who takes over those services? I mean, there's thousands of examples. We had a lady the other day that had 5 kids, could not afford, somewhere she had a past bill due on ComEd. They would not turn the power on to her house. She had absolutely no heat, couldn't cook food for her kids. Big issue. The township was able to come in and help with that. Is that something the county is willing to do on a Sunday? Or on a Saturday. So there's a lot of different issues, but I would just like to point that out, that oftentimes these things are political. Especially, like I said, a lot of the people that were pushing this bill originally did not even represent any part of McHenry County.
And I think that the bare bones of expectation would be that, and really probably the most expectation or the height of expectation at the same time would be that we would only be able to provide the services that are statutorily required, which means that everything else is going to be out the window. So, but one of the issues that we brought up, and I want to address this before we leave this discussion, we talked about a potential case at the last meeting of somebody running for township office with the idea of dissolution and achieving dissolution, which would potentially occur 2 years into their term, and the constitutionality of their salaries. And I don't know if we've had an opportunity to look into that any further, Pam, but you had some interesting statements with regard to that.
I just questioned with regard to a county constitutional office, if that individual is removed, because the state pays that salary, does that salary remain in place, or does that salary immediately stop and then be applied to the new individual who takes over that position? I don't know.
So that's for county officers, not a township dissolution discussion.
Well, the question
Well, what about
could
the township?
be
Either way, the
applied,
township law.
then what happens to the elected township position? Again, that's even clearer constitutionally. Is that salary with the office, and does it remain with that individual because they're not retired by statute? I don't know.
I just think it would be just kind of ironic if somebody came in with the intention of kind of creating chaos, and then for 2 years after the chaos has occurred, they're still going to be collecting a salary. That's got, and whatever other perks that are involved. If that's what we're looking at here, and the Illinois Constitution says that you can't take it away after it's been given. So.
I just want to, so as you're looking at this, House Bill 268, we actually passed it in the House. It was an attempt to stop contracts from being signed or enacted by before a municipal election, so that the issue that you were talking about the contracts, would not be a thing. It's actually in the Senate, stuck in assignment. So that's House Bill 268. If anybody is interested, I think you should be aware of it. And the second thing is, I just want to point out that 2 elections in an attempt to consolidate and get rid of townships failed by big margins. So voters overwhelmingly supported townships. And so, I mean, I think that's probably the most important test of this entire conversation.
Yeah, but that's exactly the conversation. That's what really kind of kicked off the conversation, especially in the case of McHenry Township, because, as you may recall, based on the way this looks, we have 90%. We can look back. They cut their levies. They cut their levies. So what do we look back at? And when you think about it, it's like literally that situation, and it ultimately would have probably foisted liability onto the existing other township residents, not from McHenry Township. There is the potential right there. I think is pretty obvious and plain to see. There's an inequity possibility there that you can't deny, and so that's really a huge concern. And again, that's as we started this discussion. What if somebody was really on the game to just eliminate the township, and that's why they're running for the township, which we've seen in this county, and in particular in McHenry Township, I believe. So that would basically create a situation foisted upon the county to basically pay for bad actions of one, what I would consider bad actions of one small group here in McHenry County. Carolyn.
Yeah, and I just wanted to on that note too, thank Representative Weber for his comments, and also Representative Wright, and kind of go back to Pam's initial point of we really need to just eliminate, find a way to rescind this because of the fact that we've responded. I mean, we absolutely have responded to anything that's come up. We've found efficiencies. I mean, Shaylin's here. She's our shared service coordinator. We have implemented efficiencies. The sheriff is here, and with his new social work program that they have, I mean, we're doing it here. We don't need people to tell us to do it because we're doing it. I appreciate the comments about the bus services. I mean, we have MC Ride now that's throughout the county because we have responded to those things. I mean, local government works if you let it. And so the state needs to stop thinking of a way to tell us how to do it and let us just do it. Let us respond appropriately, because even if it's a pilot program, what happens here in McHenry County is not going to be applicable across the entire state. So let each county respond in their own way. Really what we need is we need the state to open up those regulations to allow us to be able to function, to allow us to implement the things we need to implement. And that, that's really the restricting point, is legislation that exists at the state level. So I think it goes back to Pam's initial, we need to just remove it and let us function how we can, because we know it's demanded by our constituents to be efficient, and we're doing it. And we don't need the state to tell us to do it, because we are.
A quick question, since I wasn't part of this a number of years ago, but we can't be the first people over the wall on this. Were there any other townships in the state that were evaluated either as a success in consolidation or dissolution or complete failure, or other states? It always amazes me when we're down at Springfield believing we're the first ones to encounter issues like this and don't follow successful models, whether it's Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri. So I wasn't there at the time, but that's just a question that
I think
keeps.
this is a very unique situation, Pam.
Unfortunately, there's no specific model. Townships play different roles depending upon where they're located regionally, as you well know.
Yeah.
The only successful model I am aware of was Evanston. And Evanston absorbed their township because Evanston municipality completely incorporated it and was providing all the services anyway. And their structure was that members from the city council were also members on the township board. So there was somewhat of a continuity of services, so to speak. Otherwise, depending upon where you live, your township provides different services, and that was a conversation we had at the time, is that they are very unique to the region that they are located in for providing services based on population, based on a whole bunch of other things. So there's really
But
not
at the
a
state
specific
legislature,
model.
they always bring up the first question of, is this occurring in other states in a successful?
Right.
So
and-
it was
and-
never
and again,
addressed
they're-
in that way.
They're in different
No,
states,
I
yeah.
I get
they're made
that,
up
but,
differently, so there's
okay.
really not.
Just curious.
You know what, one of the things that I want to get across, and I hope that we can, each and every one of our committees is reviewing the potential for township consolidation. And like, as I said earlier, we're all coming up with different things that we've got to consider. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is be able to tell the townships exactly what they would have, what expectation there would be. And my guess is at the end of the day, it's going to be the statutory requirements under the highway, roads and bridges and what have you, and all the other good things will fall away. But what I really want people from the state to appreciate is that we're spending a lot of resources on this in McHenry County, because even though it didn't pass twice, I mean, they've had 2 bites of the apple, but they have an unlimited opportunity to bite to the apple. And who knows? I mean, who knows what the next go-around is going to bring? And in the meantime, we need to be prepared, and we need to make sure that our residents of those townships that potentially decide to consolidate, what their expectations can be. And as we go into this, I think the more we go into it, the more we kind of discover that there's a lot there that we hadn't even thought of when we first started talking about this. And I guess from our perspective, right now, in the last couple of months, we have invested time and effort and thought and everything to this potential. And the best thing that for us that could happen is if we didn't have to deal with this in the first place and not waste all that time in between. But unfortunately, we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here. And that's why we want to make sure that our representatives know, hey, we've got a real issue here. And the more we dig into it, the more we're realizing that we really need to make sure you're aware of it so we can address it on the state level. So, Senator Wilcox.
So is the theory behind the request, if it applies across the state, that it would force us to get the bill right because every county would be arguing the same stuff, and separate from that large move, the request to repeal would be the second desire, or maybe the repeal is first desire, apply statewide as second desire. Third desire is get these changes enacted if the law is going to remain on the books.
And selfishly, you know what? If we did do it statewide, it probably wouldn't happen in McHenry County first. And you know what? That's okay with me. I mean, I'm being selfish. I admit it. But we're put in a very unique position here, and from my perspective, and we all have a perspective, but I think it's incredibly unfair. And I do believe it is also unconstitutional. But on that side, we need to have that type of, you know what, Tom, I'm going to get back to you, and but Kelly, I'm sorry, Kelly. You have the floor.
No, that's fine. I was agreeing with what you were saying, Jeff. We worked really hard to come up with solutions, and many times all we found is more questions. Senator Wilcox, I appreciate you giving those 3 options, because that was my question, is what's next? We're presenting you with all of the possible solutions and questions that we have found. So where do we go from here? I know this is just one meeting, but what can we expect from you guys as legislators to help the county in the coming session?
Anybody want to take that?
I think we need to.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
On the options, what our preference is on the options over here. As a forum, we need to do that. And then from there, then we could request from our legislators what our desired outcome.
Yeah, and I think that we're heading to some form of proclamation to send the message to the state. I think, and at the end of the day, I don't know how that proclamation is going to look, or whether the board's going to agree to send one down there. But I'm sorry, Steve, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the fact that McHenry County or McHenry Township has already spoken twice on this issue and pretty adamantly on it indicates the kind of feeling that exists, and probably throughout the entire county here. And any message that you send down to Springfield, first of all, if it goes against the prevailing winds of the supermajority wanting to do this, it's not going to have any effect anyway, face it. But on the other hand, I, for one, am willing to continue this fight down in Springfield to go slow, because the point was brought up. What happens if one township decides that township deserves a full-blown examination of what it's going to cost them, and the county, the rest of the townships in the county, deserve a full-blown examination of what it's going to cost them to undertake the expenses and the obligations of that dissolved township. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. You say you've done a lot of it. I'd like to see where you are with regard to examining the actual cost savings that are supposed to result from this.
I would only,
again, I don't see it.
Steve, you're asking us to do a cost benefit for the cost savings. I don't think that should be on our table. We've got a lot of work right now. I think that should be part of the reason why we need you guys to help us out here. Yeah, sorry.
Steve, I know I'm old.
Go ahead, Pam.
I'm old. McHenry Township has had 4 referendums on consolidation and lost all 4. I will tell you that there had been conversations in township consolidation legislation 6 years ago that requires the county and the township that is requesting consolidation to conduct a financial study and share that cost. So I think that it may have only passed the Senate, may not have gotten through the House, but that concept is certainly out there to do that, to share that. And I would agree, I don't see why the county would expend resources to do that study before anybody's even asked us to do that. We're at a time where we're talking about reducing taxes and reducing expenditures, and to have a study done and keep it on a shelf for some future time doesn't seem to be in the best interest of our taxpayers.
Steve, I would think that any cost study to prove dissolution should be on those attempting to do the dissolution.
Yes.
I mean, so asking current governments to expend tax dollars to validate to the taxpayer what should happen, and that's been my concern with those pushing this, is that they've never done the work to convince the voter, which turned out in the votes. So putting it on either an existing township to do or the county I think is the wrong avenue. If we leave it be, the expectation is anyone pushing for dissolution or consolidation bears that burden, and that's not based on taxpayer dollars.
Okay, those are good points, and you have changed my attitude on this whole thing. I mean, COGFA exists down in Springfield for the purpose of answering these questions for us when we go to them and say, hey, can you do a study of this? I dare say that if we called, over to COGFA and said, hey, this bill, can you do something in the way of an analysis of what it's going to cost if, in fact, this is done, they'll come up with something. They're pretty darn good over there. And I would be more than willing to approach them and ask them to do that, specifically on this piece of legislation specific to McHenry County, because I think it would be easier for COGFA to do it on the basis of one county rather than the entire state.
Okay, I'd like to give the floor to Kelly. Kelly, please.
Thanks. So, yeah, my question is, currently, a township can put a referendum on the ballot. We are asking that township, if we could, to create that cost-benefit analysis. But there's no requirement for a cost-benefit analysis before they put it on the ballot. Is there any way that we can create some legislation that, if we can't get rid of this, the bill for just McHenry County, that we can at least require the township to do the cost-benefit analysis?
That's loaded.
It'd be kind of fun to amend the bill to require that, see where it goes. I mean, I don't have a problem throwing an amendment on that bill and then having it, see if it makes it out of Rules Committee. I mean, I'm willing to bet you dollars to donuts that it won't, but the fact is that, yeah, I mean, we can do that. I'm happy to file an amendment requiring a cost-benefit analysis before anything goes to referendum.
So Stephen, Representative, before you do that, can you check and make sure that that hasn't already been done?
Yeah, of course.
The township officials, I think, had agreed to that earlier, and you reminded me, so thank you. Marty, I would suggest that you can actually ask LRU to do a study and see if there's any template of a successful consolidation.
Yeah.
They'll do that research for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tom?
I can't remember, Representative Butler had a bill, I think the township and the city. Do you remember what that was, the city, Steve, or the county?
It was related to Sangamon County, though. That was like specific to
That was,
Sangamon
right,
County.
well, that was just with Sangamon, right, that was just with Sangamon County. But they were both in agreement, and then most of the services were already being offered. And this just passed, so it hasn't even probably taken effect yet. I think it passed, right? It passed the House. Did you guys get it in the Senate?
Yeah, but that was a political bill about who would have the power after the merger.
Right.
And that's
Oh,
why
that
there was
was-
a big fight.
okay.
Right.
So one side said it should happen, the other side said.
Well, I
it
just knew
shouldn't,
that
and
according to what we heard in the House, it was both supported.
it's not what
Again,
was- Not what was heard in the Senate.
A lot of stuff does not come
I
out.
commit to requesting just a more, I mean, whatever we have to do to put a moratorium or a pause, or, I think that's the really next step to do in this.
That would be
and
really
I'll take
nice,
that
just
on.
to give us some certainty, so
Yeah.
we could put that on the back burner for now then, if we
Yeah.
could do something like this, because I see us all wasting a lot of time on something that most of us don't believe should even, exist.
So what I would request is a county proclamation, highlight the number of times the voters have voted on this, your opinion or your view is that the pilot program has run its course and it's time to be removed. And then what we need to find is who was with Representative McSweeney on the majority party side and confirm that they're accepting of a repeal and ask that they be the pushers for the repeal, would be the ideal path to removing this.
And remember, at the time, the chairman actually appeared at that committee and indicated that there was support for that action. So as we move
Well, he
forward, I
was.
would suggest that the current chairman take advantage of potentially the same ability to say, that, under the circumstances of, you're right, and I think that there's probably been 5 or 6 attempts at consolidation that have all failed in McHenry County. And so maybe he can articulate that.
Do our representatives that are in attendance here, do you feel comfortable with that message? Is it something that you all align with? Is it something that, maybe that the voice from McHenry County downstate is you guys? And, if we're going to get anything done, I think you guys are the catalysts here that can get it done. And the goal here really is to take that uncertainty off of the table. We don't need it right now. I mean, there's so many other things going on that we really need to address. And here we are trying to be prepared for the next go-round with the potential of having to absorb a unit of government in 90 days. That's a burden that I don't feel is proper for us at this point. So what do we think?
Are you looking for the vote now?
Well, I'm just thinking, I'm just kind of straw polling it.
Devil's in the details, Jeff,
I,
always.
for one, would be more than happy to throw that up against the wall and see if it sticks. I mean, the problem we have, of course, is getting things out of Rules Committee, but, that would come, that kind of a bill or an amendment or whatever is going to have to come as a result of a strong statement from McHenry County saying, hey, what's going on here? This has been done 4 times. We haven't gotten nobody has gotten anywhere with any of this stuff. Can we do something that will actually solve the problem instead of making political points for people who think that, this is the only way we can do this? It's going to have to come as a strong statement from you, but I'll hold it up on the floor of the House and in committee and all that, and file all the amendments you want.
Yeah,
Happy to do it.
Nothing's been unreasonable that's been proposed, particularly the way Craig ended up putting it in different sections. I think, what your wish list is probably great. You should outline that. Yeah. Then that gives us options.
So the work is on the shoe's on our foot now. We pass a proclamation and submit it to the state. That's assuming that it gets through this committee and it gets to the board and the board accepts it. And then hopefully that message will give you the tire tread to roll on,
I would also copy Representative Yingling that here, who's the chair of counties and townships.
Okay. Okay. Well, is there anything else for the good of this discussion? Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us and for receiving our message. And hopefully we'll have a more formal message for you in the very near future so that we can actually move from point A to point B on this. I think it would save us a whole
Are there
lot.
any other issues I'm looking at your legislative priorities. As long as we're here, are there any others that you want to talk about?
I'm going to ask Alicia to join the committee right now and let her do her stuff.
Thank you, Chairman Shorson. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alicia Schuler, Communications and Program Manager here at McHenry County. In addition to our discussion on townships, there are seven total issues on our draft legislative program.
Give us the 3 most important ones.
All right. Obviously, townships, ROE. That's our next big issue. As the statute stands right now, there are 6 separate requirements to become an ROE across the state of Illinois. But from what I understand, I'm sorry, can you not hear me, Representative Wright?
Yeah, I'm happy.
You just muted yourself, Steve.
Steve, you got to use sign language. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if it's because you have a mask on or you're too far away from the microphone or whatever. But I can't hear you.
All right, well then I'll come to the center. And I'll use this as an excuse to use my outdoor voice.
Okay, Mom.
So, the Regional Office of Education, to become the superintendent of schools across the state of Illinois, There are 6 separate requirements needed, but from what I understand, these requirements do not even comport anymore with the requirements for superintendents across the state. Those requirements were updated. And traditionally in McHenry County, we have had difficulties trying to recruit qualified candidates to take on this important position. So what we are asking as a county is that alternate experience requirements be incorporated into the statute, or at least have it updated so that more people can, essentially guide our children and guide the superintendents and guide our educators across the county. So that's another big one. And of course, I'm sorry, Representative Weber?
Yeah, so I was just going to, if you have suggestions of what those changes should be. Are those?
Actually, Senator Wilcox has been working with the committee and has several suggestions. And again, a little bit of background, we've done this before. The state of Illinois has done this before. It's not new. When we had difficulty finding a director's position for the Fox Waterway, we went in and expanded. We didn't lessen, we just expanded the qualifications so that today's individuals could apply for those positions that have kind of changed with their responsibility levels.
So this
Go
would be
ahead,
for the
Senator.
entire state of change? Is that correct? Not
Yes,
just for McHenry?
yes.
That would be
Because
the
we've had
ideal.
issues again with special
Right.
legislations for,
That would be the ideal. The
Right.
challenge, obviously, is people are going to have to make a decision to run for this position, which is a 2022 election, before any changes are made.
Right.
So, I mean, that's arguably the challenge.
Before we all break up, as far as this portion of this meeting goes, Alicia, could you do me a favor? Could you ask Sheriff Prim, I believe he's out in the vestibule, to join us? Because just before you all leave, I think the sheriff would like to share some information with us.
So before he comes in, I think the number's up to 56, the number of people who are rearrested and charged with violent offenses who have previously been allowed to walk under the Safety Act and cashless bail system in Polk County. So that's up from 51 a week and a half ago.
Not so great
you
news.
say 54?
56.
Out of how many that were released?
What?
Out of how many that were released?
All 56 were previously released and are now rearrested on.
So
again,
100%,
violent-
right, 100% rearrest rate, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying there are currently 56 violent arrests for violent crimes of individuals who had previously been released
Right.
by a certain state's attorney in the cashless bail and electronic monitoring system. And that's just since the act passed.
But is that only 56 people have been released total, or?
I don't know how many of the
Okay,
releases.
and like, what's the percentage,
Gotcha.
56 out of how many, I'm
Well,
curious.
I
I'm not
think-
saying it's not a
I think the
bad
point is
number,
those
I'm just
56 releases
curious.
have re-victimized new
Yeah,
people.
no, it's
The one in
right.
Wisconsin
It's a
didn't work out.
disturbing number.
Well,
It's just
I would like to offer or ask, or request that Sheriff Prim join us and give us a synopsis of what's going on in the sheriff's office in McHenry County in particular.
How'd you know I backed out?
Thank you for joining us, Sheriff.
No, thanks for the invite. We just wanted to give you a quick overview before you folks left about another project that we have going on that we're very excited about. Partnering up with local law enforcement under the county's umbrella, creating a training center. That's something that we've been working on for, I don't know, when we start 5 or 6 years ago, with a mandate for consolidating some services and how we could become much more efficient and provide a better product from law enforcement in general. And the things that we identified was the biggest thing was training. Training is extremely expensive, it's extremely important, and now I believe it's more timely than ever with the new mandates that came out with the legislation over the winter, requiring extended training hours and other requirements, and no funding available. So one of our partners from the beginning was Kerry, and Kerry has very graciously offered us their city hall and their police department as a location for a new training center. So I believe we're going to accept that and start the process of creating a new training facility there. The county would be overall responsible, but we bring partners in. We have multiple communities and law enforcement agencies that have been extremely supportive of this process since the get-go. We've advised this board as we've gone through this process, but now we're excited to see it finally come into fruition. So with the board's final approval and the assistance of county admin, we should be taking over that facility within the next 60 days. We'll start our construction projects, and not only will we have a new substation and a new facility for county sheriff's office to operate out and save us some time and allow us to respond in a more timely fashion to calls on that part of the county. We'll also be able to consolidate our services, provide the mandated training. We'll be able to train 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so people can train on duty instead of trying to coordinate and organize for people on different shifts and different schedules. We'll be able to train our own people. So the sheriff, if our office was providing the training, our participating in partners and agencies can send their people on duty. We can do the same. We can utilize their trainers. We can create a whole facility where we can manage law enforcement and come up with a consistent, effective response that not only hits all the state mandates, but actually provides the services that this county, quite frankly, deserves. And, so we're very, very excited about the program. We understand that it's a large undertaking, so we appreciate the support that we've received along the way. It's one of the many projects that seem to be coming to a head all at one time, but with county admin's support and the board's support, as well as the other community support, we're excited to tell you that we're going to be moving forward here in the very, very near future.
Well, thank you. Senator Wilcox.
Since we have the sheriff testifying, may I ask the defendant a few questions?
I didn't swear. I didn't swear to anything. Sorry, Senator.
Obviously, with the smash and grab at Otto Villa, the gunfight at Bull Valley in 31, the additional smash and grabs at other local automobile dealers around, the news is saying that this criminal enterprise is moving out to the suburbs because they believe if they can get onto I-90 and cross a couple county lines that they're safe to get back to Cook County. Can you talk about whether it's under the Safety Act rules or just in general, what pursuit you are authorized to do beyond county lines, do or are hesitant to do at this point without letting the criminals know exactly what they're in for?
Well, our chase policy has not changed, okay? That's up to each individual entity is to make a decision as to how they want to handle traffic pursuits. And that's really a fine line when you talk about cost benefits, as you were just discussing with the townships. It's a cost benefit. Where does the liability become a greater risk than the actual crime itself? So we have jurisdictional authority. The Safety Act does not change that in any way, shape, or form, but most places, ourselves included, particularly those that are accredited agencies, we hit specific mandates in order to maintain those accreditations, require certain specifics regarding the chase. The severity of the crime, the likelihood of apprehension or identification at a later date. Again, they addressed some of that in the Safety Act, but it was really unrelated to chases themselves. But it's when the risk becomes greater than the benefit. So, in our instances for traffic, you take into consideration the time of day, what the lighting's like, what the roads are like, the speed, the weather, and the likelihood of an apprehension is without creating a major incident. If it's heavy traffic, if it's foul weather, if it's excessive speeds, it becomes too dangerous. We'd obviously just terminate the chase voluntarily and hand it over to our investigative division in order to conduct a proper follow-up. So I don't think that there was a significant impact there. There's no one-size-fits-all relative to how these policies are enacted. Again, it's at the tolerance of the oversights for either the municipalities or for our office to make those individual decisions. Relative to what you're asking as to the different types of crimes that seem to be migrating out to the collar counties, that's always been a concern. We take a very staunch approach, as does the majority of the law enforcement as well as the state's attorney's office in prosecuting these cases. A lot of the fun goes out of it for some of these people that want to come into McHenry County and wreak some havoc and then go back to a location where they feel that they may be a little bit more safe in the type of a prosecution. But like I said, the cooperation between law enforcement in general, the state police out here can always pick up a pursuit. We can take a pursuit wherever we wish, depending on the severity of the crime, across those jurisdictional boundaries. But again, with the cooperation that we have amongst the agencies, the interaction that we have with the state's attorney's office, the strong approach that we take from the enforcement aspects, hopefully minimizes that to a certain extent. We've seen that, the crimes happen, but fortunately we've been able to keep our crime rates are still pretty low, and we have not seen a significant uptick in violent crime. Some of the property crimes are out there, and we'll do our best to address those. Fortunately, if we have this training center, and we are coming together as multiple agencies training with the same understandings and guises and directions, we'll be able to come up with even a better approach.
Thanks. Tom, quick.
How's it going, Sheriff?
Good. How are you saying?
One thing I've been really concerned about, especially in the last 3-4 weeks when I've talked to a couple different agencies, is that since the law enforcement legislation has passed here in Illinois, rumors of other legislation, that they've had a drastic reduction in applicants and also increase in retirees. And I was just kind of curious to know what kind of a picture is here in McHenry County, if you're experiencing the same thing or not.
We are, and that is a significant problem that is facing law enforcement across the state, and this legislation certainly did not help it. Our numbers are down. Since I've taken office, I would imagine we're at about 30% of the applicants that we used to get. And not only that, but the other issues that we ran into because of some of the mandates that came through with that legislation regarding training and the extension of the academies and how this is going to impact the training. We all have a difficult time, if in fact we're able to find a qualified applicant, getting them into a training facility, getting them trained. I mean, it's a lengthy process from an application, from an application, a test, a background investigation, an academy, and a field training. We'd be lucky if we could have somebody spun up and working in 9 to 12 months. You throw these obstacles in the way, even if we're fortunate enough to draw a significant amount of qualified applicants, the ability to train them and get them into a workable position where they could be viable working on their own is a lengthy process, and all this did was extend it. So yeah, we are experiencing that time, and as are all the agencies in our county.
Okay, any other questions for the sheriff?
Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to ask Sheriff Krim, thank you for the update. First of all, I think that will be a great asset to the county. So there's been a lot of changes, especially with the passage of the Safety Act. And we hear, on the news and media about all the different events that go on around the country and in Chicago, and talking about it moving out to our county. I just wanted to know if you have seen a change in crime rates out here, if there was a change in the personal safety of our residents. I just wanted to I guess get some feedback from you on if we should be aware things are changing out here.
Well, yes, things are changing out here. Things are changing all over. That just seems to be the evolution in the culture of the country itself. And we're no different. We're just a microcosm of what goes on throughout this nation. But as far as the safety component, no, I think we do a very good job out here as an industry to particularly attack any kind of violent crime. We have not seen any significant increase in violent crime out here. We have seen an increase in some property crimes. Those we need to address because just even from a quality of life perspective, we've all come to enjoy a certain amount of security and safety in our homes and our businesses, and I think that's deserved. And so we'll continue to try to attack those problems. We do meet on a regular basis, not just with law enforcement, but we do meet with the state's attorneys, we do meet with training boards, we do meet with different associations to try to figure out methods that not only can we attack that on an enforcement, but from a legislative perspective as well. The Illinois Sheriff's is very active down in Springfield, as I'm sure the legislators are aware. The Illinois Chiefs are very active down there for proposed legislation and training and assistance for some of the funding for some of the mandates and requirements. Change is hard, and it always comes with a few bumps, but we'll adjust and we'll adapt, and I'm confident that we'll be successful in keeping McHenry County the county that we all love to live.
So, thank you. I just want to follow up then. I just want to make sure that our residents shouldn't feel any differently when it comes to their personal safety.
I would say you're correct. And we're working very hard to keep that in place. So.
Suzanne?
Yes, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm excited. I'm glad to hear that you're moving forward with that. My question is, I know Gillespie has like regional training, like mobile training units around the state. Will this training center become one, is it potentially can become one of those where like other, is it just for the county's use, or do you foresee potentially other departments able to send officers, maybe for a fee, rather than paying it to Gillespie, they might be paying it to the center?
Yeah, we have multiple partners, so it's a great question. Would we be opening up the training to other law enforcement agencies in the region? Absolutely. So when ILETSB breaks it down into these mobile training units, these MTUs, they're very supportive. They need facilities to train in desperately. There's a group out of Iowa, there's MCTC that we partnership with. Northwestern has talked to us about running staff and command programs out of there. And NEMR, which is a training group, a coordinating training group that runs under the umbrella of ILETSB, is very, very supportive of the project as well, as are the adjacent sheriffs and multiple agencies throughout, maybe a 50 to 75 mile radius.
They don't have to drive 3 hours away to get training. That's a great.
Well, when you consider training somebody at midnight, you have to give that individual that night off, but he has to be out the night before and the night after in order to maintain things under the federal statutes to give people allow time off in order to be prepared for when they work. If we could bring people in and train them at unique times on duty, just the saving and staffing on that, I believe the center will pay for itself.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, seeing none, we have a lot of new business to attend to at this meeting. And I want to again thank everybody that has attended for the purpose of our discussion this morning. Really appreciate the response. We're floored. I'm just very grateful that all of you had an opportunity to come and give us a little bit of time to, scream at you. Does everybody in this committee feel like they need, does anybody in this committee feel like we need to take a 5 or 10 minute break? Okay, let's break for 5, 10 minutes.
Thank you,
And I
Mr.
apologize
Chairman.
for anybody waiting for that. A portion of the meeting. Bob, it's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And I guess the first thing we need is a motion to approve this license for Sammy's Bar and Gaming.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So Pam made the motion. And
I'll second.
Jeff or John? I don't know which one was first.
John.
Okay, has everybody looked over, or Sammy, or Sam, I'm sorry. You want to give us a little presentation, tell us a little bit about that facility? I know you've been there in Wonder Lake for a while, but you want to give us a quick synopsis?
Sure. Yes, I just bought it in a Wonder Lake Village Market not too long ago in a Wonder Lake, and Lizard Lounge is closed, and I got a banquet opportunity, and a lot of people said, Sam, can you buy it? And I said, okay, let's go, we open it, because Wonder Lake is not too many business, so I don't want to be closed, so we got good opportunity, so we're doing the same thing, whatever day before. We're going to keep it, the food, we have the food, exactly we keep it same, but we just clean it up a little bit and look nice, yeah. So I'm in business a long time, so I just like to, do more investment, do more.
Okay.
Very good. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, I appreciate that. That's really important, is you do make an investment back in the community by cleaning up the property, making it look appropriate, et cetera. So I just want to indicate that I've been watching that too.
Yes.
And it's appreciated, more than you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. And as far as his application, everything has been approved by the Plan Commission, the Health Department, as his Bassett training and insurance and everything is in order. And I believe the attorney, Jenna, has approved everything as well, to my understanding. So I guess we're ready for a vote, or a roll call. Unless anybody has any questions.
I'm good.
Good.
Holbeck,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Altoff,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Von Bergen,
Yes.
Nowak,
Yes.
Thorson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, thank you very much for coming, and we approved the license. Please remember that the license is a privilege to have in McHenry County, and I know you talked about keeping the shop in great shape, part of the community, and that's important to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Yes.
Okay, we have a series of interviews before us. Unfortunately, Karen, the second interviewee, cannot attend, but there is someone here who is going to speak on her behalf. But let's start here right now with Edward Weskerna from Marengo Rescue Squad. Why don't you come up to our table, please? Thank you. That's fine. Okay. And if you would, just kind of give us some background, fill us in a little bit about your history with the rescue squad,
Okay.
what have you.
Like you said, my name's Ed Weskerna. I live in Marengo. I've lived in Marengo all my life. I'm 66 years old. I'm currently retired. I worked at the Soil and Water Conservation District for 36 years, and I retired last year. I was appointed to the rescue squad, I believe, one term ago, and I think it's 3 years. I can't remember. Time flies so fast. So I've been a trustee with the rescue squad for at least 3 years now. So that gives you a little bit of my background. Anything else pertinent? Yes.
Yeah.
Number one challenge you see in front of you?
With the rescue squad?
I didn't say personally, but no, just go on, please.
She didn't mean us.
Well, I think what the biggest thing that we accomplished recently was passing a referendum that keeps our rescue squad staffed by providing benefits that they've never had before. And I think we've done a good job of getting those benefits and everything all in order so that we retain the personnel instead of being a training ground and then moving those people would be hired by Buffalo Grove and then we'd have to hire some new people in. It's just it's a big burden, I believe, on the whole rest of the staff that's there.
Something that the county is relatively familiar with as well.
Yes, yeah. I didn't even realize it when I got on that there were no benefits for our paramedics and our EMTs and firefighters. So I'm proud that we did that. And I think we had overwhelming support from the voters in Marengo as well. I guess they like being rescued when they need to be rescued.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for the interviewee? For Ed? Seeing none, thank you, Ed.
Okay,
Thanks very much
thank you guys.
Thank you for applying.
Yep.
Instead of Karen, I'd like to ask, I didn't get a chance to meet you, but I don't think, but...
Chief John Kimmel. I just
Chief
took
Kimmel?
over as chief 2 years ago.
Great, thank you very much for joining us.
I know Gene's supposed to be here as well. I'm hoping nothing's wrong because he's the guy who's always early. So he would be your next candidate that's supposed to come up. But if you have questions for me about Gene, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
I suppose for me, the only question that I have is, generally we want to interview the candidates,
Absolutely.
and now the candidates can't, because of other issues, could not make it. And I'm wondering if this board could still keep the fire burning, so to speak. Do we, based on...
I can give you a little bit of background on both of them because both of them are current trustees. So in terms of Karen, this would be Karen's 4th term as a trustee. Prior to becoming a trustee, she was a member of the Marengo Rescue Squad District. She is a nurse, was a paramedic. She's since let her paramedic license lapse since becoming a trustee. Currently, her and her husband run a local business in Marengo, a garage door business, so she's focusing on that because her son's taking over, so they're expanding their business. So she's very active and has been since she took that position as trustee. The reason I asked to sit before this committee on her behalf is with your guys' schedule, she wouldn't be able to come in until January. What that does for us, we've kind of changed since I took over 2 years ago with the budget process. We've kind of broken that down, and one of our most important, obviously, is our employees' benefits package for the year, their salary for the following year, and we vote on that in January. So if she waits till January to come back to this committee, she wouldn't be able to vote in January or have an opinion on that until after she was obviously reappointed. But like I said, she's a very active trustee, as all of our trustees are. She's been before this committee before. She's been appointed before. She's been challenged in the past with this committee for somebody who else wanted that position. This committee still chose her over that other applicant. So I just feel that it's fitting, seems that she's not challenged, that I would come before you and ask to consider appointing her again.
So there are no other challengers with regard to these particular seats today, right?
No, there are no other challenges. And Gene just walked in, so.
Very good. Great segue.
Yeah, perfect.
So maybe Gene wants to come to the table too and just give us a little of your background, Gene, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Especially since you came all this way. Thank you very much for coming to visit with us and taking
No
the time.
problem.
Sure. Does anybody have any particular, Gene, if you would, give us a little background of your experience with Marengo Rescue Squad and just to get us all up to speed, so to speak.
Oh, I joined the Marengo Rescue Squad in 1972 as a volunteer, and I've stayed active. And I've been on the board, I don't know how many years, The reason I wanted to stay involved with it because of all of my volunteer years on it. I volunteered for 36 years, and I told the board I didn't want to knock anybody off, but if an opening became, I'd like to take it. And the reason I wanted to take it, I wanted to make sure it kept going. We've always had a good working relationship with the fire department and Union Fire Department. And I wanted to continue. And I wanted to make sure that we kept going in the right direction. And we're really making some positive steps with equipment and manpower. Recently we purchased some equipment that I never thought would be able. It's back-saving equipment, and some people may think, well, we didn't need that kind of equipment. Well, one injury would pay for all of that. And we're very progressive. We've got a young department, and we did things with taxation that actually is helpful to the community. And that allows us not to get in trouble like a lot of other communities have with their departments. We have a young staff, and they're very progressive, and seems like everybody gets along. I'm the old guy of the department, I'm 77 years old, but I enjoy it, So I'm a businessman downtown. I retired out of Chrysler after 36 years. I opened my dad's business up downtown. It's a Red Wing shoe store. If you have any questions, shoot them at me.
Yeah, do we have any questions from the committee for the candidate?
Just one, a few years ago, I think, I'm not sure, but there was a little bit of rift between the fire department and the rescue work about in Union. You guys have an ambulance, or does the Marengo Fire Department have equipment in Union?
Are you directing that towards Gene or
well, anybody.
Sure, I can answer that.
Once I direct that to him, yes, we do, but go ahead.
So there, a few years ago, there was I wouldn't say a rift, but we had put, so Marengo Rescue District covers the city of Marengo and the village of Union. Well, our response times are obviously going to be much greater than Union. So we had the opportunity to purchase some property through the Marengo Rescue District. We purchased some property that we were able to, through our own people, essentially remodel and put a station and house an ambulance there. We did that, and the rift that you're speaking of is we had worked or tried to work with the Union Fire Protection District to put an ambulance in their station. What happened is what we were going to have to pay for rent and upgrades to their station, it was more fiscally responsible for us to buy this property because we could remodel it ourselves, put an ambulance there, plus there's rental units on it. And as a rescue squad district, we can have rental property. So essentially that property that we've purchased since that time has paid for itself and is now, it's a self-sufficient station through the rental. It pays for the lights, it pays for the gas, and upgrades that we've made as far as siding, roofing, different things, driveway, septic, it's paid for itself. So we haven't had to ask or use money out of our operating budget to do those things. So yes, there is 2 stations there. There's the Union Fire Protection District, and across the street, half a block down is the Rescue Squad District.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I want to add further to that. I've always felt that we have to give our people better coverage. It's a long distance to drive from where we're at to the furthest part of that district. I was a big advocate. I happen to be good friends with the chief. Him and I, the old chief that passed away, Herb Bolt.
God bless him.
Good man, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And the chief is aware that I've had those conversations with them, and we tried to break those barriers. We're unsuccessful. We're looking, and we did purchase land, and it was really, it was for the people. It wasn't for our personal gains. We have land purchased out by the tollway for further expansions. That's what I meant when I said that we're thinking ahead. You know, we're looking at what can we do to make it better. We used to cover the tollway. We lost that. But you know what? Whenever time they're ready to go, we've got land right next door to that tollway. Chief, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so things have changed with the tollway, but once the I-90 project started, which obviously the county board and everybody was involved with, we worked with a local developer and essentially had 5 acres donated to us. That's right there on that I-90 corridor. So anywhere in that area, once it's developed and onto I-90, we'll have anywhere, depending on how far out, no more than a 5-minute response from the station to there. I foresee that hopefully within the next 5 years, we're gonna build that station because we do have some developments. It is the second busiest part of our district. It is south of town there where that station will cover. But we also bought 15 acres off of Coral Road and 20 for the future. We kind of envisioned that more as a training center and headquarters station. That one's probably gonna be a little further down the road, just because it's not developing as fast right there on that Route 20 corridor. But definitely the 2390 corridor is somewhere that we're looking and prepared to build. And I have my visions that I'm hoping you guys are also involved with that station, and Sheriff Prim and some other groups that we can work on that together, because I think that's a good area for everybody. We talked about that about 4 years ago, partnering in a project, so that's definitely something we're looking forward to in the future, that we can partner with the county and work on getting that other station.
So I feel like I know I'm an old man, but I feel like we're progressive, and that's where we like to be.
Be careful, there are some people in the room older.
Pardon?
I said, be careful with that. There's some people in the room who are a little bit older than you.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
going to
okay.
classify myself in that.
That's okay. It's the line of thinking that you take. So any questions? I mean, shoot them at us.
Seeing none. Oh, Bob?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the time you put in. There's a lot of years, and I really appreciate the comments. Give me a little understanding too of your Marengo.
Well, you know, it's been a lot of fun. Really, it has. You know, there's been some tough moments in it, but
There always is.
But you know, as far as the fellowship in it, tell you can't beat it. Can't beat it. And this young man sitting behind me sometime, I told him just last week, I said, you know, his nickname is Biscuit. And I told him, I says, you know, Chief, you got to forgive me sometimes. I've known you as Biscuit so many years, I forget to call you Chief.
That's nice.
Very cool, very cool. Any other questions? Great, well, there being none, I guess we can move right on.
Chairman, I just wanted to let you know on the agenda, it does say that the term expires on December 31st of 2025. The notes I was giving were saying it's a 4-year term. Chief Kimball is confirmed as a 3-year term. So it'll be expiring on December 31st of 2024.
Okay. The first question I would have, since we're at the deliberation point of this, is does anybody on the committee feel it's necessary to have any further interview with any of the candidates?
No.
There being an agreement there, I guess at this point, somebody could make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to appoint the 3 candidates to the...
I'm going to recognize John's motion and Bob's second. How's that?
Okay, sounds great.
Is that for all 3 candidates and Mott's?
Yeah, all 3.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Could we go to a roll call, please?
Wagner,
Yes.
Wilbeck,
Yes.
Noack,
Yes.
Altough,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Von Bergen,
Yes.
Thorson.
Yes. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
very much.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
You're all great.
And Herb was a great man. All righty, now we're on to resolutions. Before us, we have a resolution authorizing a 3-year agreement with Compassion Funeral Services for the removal of decedents. We have a presentation from our coroner. Thank you for joining us.
Of
Dr. Ray.
course. Hello, Michael. How are you? How's everybody today? All right. So this resolution is for body removal services. We've used Compassion for a while now. The reason I did want to bring this forward is because of that $30,000, standard that we have. We went over it this year, and probably will in the future as well. But that doesn't mean that it'll always be that way. You just never know. But as far as the transparency issue and things of that nature, I wanted to bring this forward to you guys so there was no issues going forward or anything in that nature. But also, this did secure a 3-year contract as well, which I think is beneficial for the long term for the office and things in that nature. As you can tell, we did do an RQ in December of 2020. There's really, honestly, nobody else out there, to be honest with you. I've made personal phone calls to different ambulance services. I've even called funeral homes and things of that nature. Some of them are basically, they won't get out of bed for $350 or more. So, just an FYI. But obviously, if we ever need services and stuff like that, the funeral homes will step in and things in that nature. If whatever something happens and that type of thing. That's really kind of it. I don't know if there's any questions about it.
Pam has a question.
Pam.
It's a 3-year contract. Is there any provision in that contract that they can come back and ask us for additional funds?
No.
Okay. I think that's important to know. Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. I read through the contract. There's a lot of clauses in there for extras, which I thought
Sure.
I was getting a kick out of it
Right.
a little bit.
Yep.
Sitting with my wife and I was reading her some of them, and they were a little odd. But all the years I've been here on the board, I don't believe I've ever seen that. And it might have been something that I missed, so
Sure.
I really appreciate the opportunity to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Seeing none, could we go to a roll call, please?
Young,
Yes.
Nowak,
Yes.
Altoff,
Yes.
Wilbeck,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Von Bergen,
Yes.
Thorson.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we did not have a motion in a second.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
Oh, I
We had,
John
John was
and-
the motion and
yeah.
Bob was the second.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry about that. All right.
That it?
Well, it's up
All
to
right.
you. I mean,
All right.
if it was
Thanks,
zero, we
everyone.
went out the door by now.
All right. Michael.
All right, here's the big one, guys.
Yep. You guys have fun.
All right. Sandra, we're going to talk about a resolution authorizing the McHenry County Board to enter into a contract with FGM Architects for architectural and engineering fees for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the McHenry County Training Facility Capital Improvement Project, including construction manager costs and fees for Phase 1. Funding for the training facility capital plan project will include American Recovery Plan Fund not to exceed $6.2 million and sheriff discretionary funds for remainder of the project. The floor is yours.
Okay, did you want a motion first?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Okay.
I'll get that out of the way. I'll make that motion.
Great, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'll go ahead and get started. I have, of course, the sheriff here and the director of purchasing.
Kevin's coming in right now.
And Kevin, the director of finance. This has really been a team effort over the last year. And as the sheriff mentioned earlier, we've been looking at a regional training facility for a long time. Back in 2018, the sheriff's office put together a white paper to give to our lobbyist group at that time to take this into Washington and try to secure funds. Meanwhile, we were looking locally for partners, and on that white paper, we had the chiefs of police in McHenry County and many other regional partners signing it to really give it the muscle, showing that there was a need at that time. Now here we are, in almost 2022, and we're very excited to bring this forward to you. So after looking at lots of different options, this option really seems to make the most sense for McHenry County. After bringing in Adam and Kevin and working with the Village of Cary, we discovered that they had been working with a design architect who was able to bring things to the table and show us not only what they had planned on doing there, but kind of the cost for what's going to happen when we walk in the building. And we got great quotes on that, and we also got a great quote on the firing range, which in the MOU is another property that the Village of Cary is going to be giving to us. So this resolution kind of brings the whole project together. It brings the regional training facility in 2 phases. One into the Village of Cary and police station, and remodeling it so we can really get in there and work our programs out of there, including our co-responder program that we're excited about. And then phase 2 is the firing range, which is on the old Public Works ground. This resolution puts in place FGM as the design and construction managers for both phases. And any questions about them, I'm going to give to Adam, but the Village of Cary had procured them, so it makes sense to use them moving forward. And then this resolution also commits funding. So the funding from the American Recovery Funds and then the Sheriff's discretionary funds. So discretionary are the ones that are outside of the general fund. So they're the ones that are inmate welfare forfeiture funds that we can use to make up the balance of this project. What isn't said in here, because we don't exactly know, is there's also going to be participation from our local agencies that are going to be members or participating with us. So much like the co-responder program that we've talked to you guys about, there's going to be partnerships within our municipalities. And what that's going to look like, we don't know, but it's going to be income. In fact, that's kind of the income that we're looking at to use for future maintenance of the facility. So we're very excited about being able to move forward with this. This will allow us now to really put in place design and do any of the bidding that needs to be done for the training facility. And as always, anytime we go out to bid or go into contract with any subcontractors, if needed, that's got to come forth. But this puts the project in motion.
Excellent. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Kevin. This is about 10% of the ARPA funds. We're approved to start spending that now?
So it opens the door for that. It does, the way that we are allocating as far as the cash flow goes is we're going to start with the discretionary funds at the Sheriff's Office first, and then move on to the American Rescue Plan dollars afterwards. But the 6.2 million, it's the commitment, sort of the top ceiling.
That's ARPA.
Correct.
And where's the 3.1 coming from?
So that's part of the discretionary funds that the Sheriff's Office has been committing, or is committing to this project. So some of the funds that Sandra was mentioning, forfeiture funds that are within the authority of the Sheriff's Office. We are, some of these funds we are keeping track on D365 as far as, like we set up a few agency funds in D365 in our system, and those could be part of this collaboration that can be used for that.
Okay. There's a statement made in there that you're waiting for updated numbers. What does that mean?
So that's from FGM.
Well, we can talk. So, yes. So there was preliminary numbers on a study that was commissioned by the Village of Cary, a few years ago. And it would give, they'd identify whatever area that would need improvements or repairs, when it would be needed, what the anticipated cost would be, and what the end of life would be, either with or without those improvements. Those were based on, prices 3 years ago. Those have changed, so we need to upgrade some of those and update some of those prices, reevaluate some of that equipment to see if it's necessary and when that would be necessary.
So that 9.2 million is a soft number.
It is, but I think that it gives us plenty of room to maneuver underneath that ceiling.
It's a very conservative number, and that's why we put in not to exceed.
What was the timeline?
So that's the other thing that we want to meet with, when we get the permission and approval to move forward with this contract. There was a tentative timeline. We anticipate taking over that building sometime in the middle of January. We're going to occupy that building immediately upon Carrie's vacating the premises. But the construction is going to commence immediately regarding the outside of the building, any type of safety features or any of the different there's a few structural issues that need to be addressed in a fairly expedient fashion. Those should be able to start right away. As we said, we're going to use the sheriff's discretionary funds. And when we talk about discretionary funds, I want to make sure that you folks know that this is something that the county audits, has oversight, and has complete viewing privileges. They're just statutorily prohibited from spending if we're going to participate in some of these programs in order to for an asset forfeiture fund. Those have to be utilized for non-budgetary law enforcement items, and they can't be replacing parts of the budget. So they leave that in control of the sheriff's office, but we don't. It's not a secret checkbook that we keep hidden in our office. So those are the funds that we're talking about. We won't have to consistently come back and ask for money on those first phases, but we wanted to make sure that we could actually start to put together that timeline, start building these projects out, and start the bidding process so we can keep the ball rolling.
Thanks. That's it for questions.
I'm sorry?
That's it.
Other questions? Bob?
Yeah, so just curious, more than anything. So the bidding with FGM, on the designs and stuff, do you just approve that, or does that come back to the county board for approving those contracts?
Those contracts for construction, design and construction, will come back to you. What this is really doing is bringing them on board as the architect and designer, so anything that they present will go out for bid. Those bids will come back to you for approval.
Okay. That's where I was a little confused.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Bob did the inspections on my home. He probably just doesn't trust me with some of the repairs.
I worked in that office. I worked in that facility for 23 years. I want to make sure that it remains the same. Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? There being none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Can we have a roll call, please?
Wagner.
Yes.
Altoff.
Yes.
Wilbeck.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Nowak.
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
Thorson.
Yes. All right.
Great.
Good, thank you.
That was big, guys.
Yes.
That was big.
Don't kick some people out.
A lot of work.
That was big. Thank you.
We're working on the closing documents now.
Fingers crossed.
The upside is, so I think that we have to pay $1 for that building, and I told them if they're not out, we're going to start charging rent. So, by January, we can double our money.
All right. We have a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a State of Illinois Emergency Management Performance Grant, program agreement for fiscal year 2021. Hi.
Good morning. Director Christensen is out sick today, so I'm going to work for him. Basically, we've had this grant for almost 50 years, and we're allowed to receive the maximum that we can get from the county based on our performance. It goes towards the replacement cost for our personnel, administrative expenses, and equipment and travel. And I guess we're fortunate that we get what we get. Unfortunately, it's not more, but we are.
You have to forgive me, because I did it again.
Didn't take a motion.
Exactly.
I'll do the motion.
It's on me. We have a motion and a second from Bob Nolan. Sorry about that.
Now discussion.
Now you gotta say it again.
No, if you're done, I'm opening the floor to questions before we go to a vote. Any questions for? There being none, let's go to a roll call.
Straightforward.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
Noack.
Yes.
Wobak.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Altoff.
Yes.
Thorson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
I don't know if I should bring this up under other or old business, but we do have an issue with regard to the timing of the proclamation that we might want to pursue for the state with regard to the township consolidation. My understanding is they kind of need to hear from us prior to January to get things, keep the ball rolling on this, and we don't lose track of where we are. Alicia, if you'd like to
Yes,
chime in.
Representative Ness was very clear that January 14th was the deadline to file bills this year, so we need to have this done quickly.
Yes. So
Scott has already started drafting.
So I will make a
I'm almost
motion. I'm going to make a motion that this committee direct the administration to draft a proclamation according to the parameters that were discussed here and present it directly to the committee of the whole for comment, and then have it placed on the regular December board meeting for approval and disbursement, assuming it
Yeah,
passes.
before we go to discussion, before we second, that's going to be this is a consensus right here, right now, right?
Yeah.
From a technical standpoint,
Or I could do a motion.
We're using the word proclamation, but it would be a resolution in support.
You know what, we
We
said
didn't
proclamation,
publish.
I didn't know if there was
We
a
didn't-
difference at the county level, but yes, a resolution, a resolution
Yeah,
that
we
would be given.
didn't publish for it, so I think we probably have to go with a proclamation, or not a proclamation, but a consensus at this point.
Fine.
I may or may not be correct,
We'll
but.
put it under new and unfinished business.
Yeah. And I think we generally know what that's going to look like, but why don't you kind of roll through that again a little bit? What do you think that would look like? Or you, Scott?
All right, this is just rough. All right. Whereas Public Act 101-230 was signed into law in August 2019 with the intent to provide voters in McHenry County Townships with a path in which they could dissolve their township. And whereas Public Act 101-230 is specialized law exclusive to McHenry County and it was enacted without conferring with, consulting, or engaging with the McHenry County Board in any way regarding legislative intent or in the course of due diligence to examine the implications. And whereas a careful examination of the legislation has found it to be considerably flawed and problematic due to lack of clarity, conflicts, undue burden, dubious presumed deficiencies, residual liability, and significant potential for unintended consequences. And whereas historically, referendum questions pertaining to township dissolutions have failed at least 4 times, which is an undeniable testament to the voters' desire to maintain the townships and the services provided. And whereas, given the flaws in the exclusive application and implementation of this legislation, the McHenry County Board implores the Illinois General Assembly to consider repealing this legislation or, as a less desirable alternative, make significant improvements and clarifications to address the practical challenges and apply this legislation statewide. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this McHenry County Board that it prays for the repeal of Public Act 101-230 by our 102nd General Assembly due to its problematic nature and exclusive application to McHenry County. And it further proclaimed that the McHenry County Board vehemently supports the voters to have a choice in their government, and if the legislative intent is to provide voters with a path to dissolve the township remains, the McHenry County Board asks that this opportunity be applied to all voters of all townships across the state, and would welcome an opportunity to work with legislators to craft viable and practical legislation accordingly. And be it further resolved that the county clerk is asked to spread this resolution across the record of McHenry County and to distribute a copy to each senator and representative serving in the 102nd General Assembly.
Boy, have you been busy.
Yeah.
Scott, I would only ask, flip that around, where you say apply it to the state, do that first, and then say minimally to correct the things, because I think that was kind of the order that we did it in. So we want to go on, we want it spread to the state, and then to correct all of the shortcomings.
Oh, can do.
So we have a consensus, right? Very good. All right.
And I wouldn't say I'm poor either.
I'm welcome
I know,
to.
I know, but I'd go respectfully request, like
Anything
go
else
some
under
other.
old
but I would
business?
do it.
There being nothing, we have a discussion on the liquor ordinance update. Is that a lengthy discussion?
Nope.
All right.
I apologize. I have the
Oh, no,
other
no.
two, so.
Oh,
Can I
okay.
steal one of those, Bill, and I'll, you have to jump later.
Come on, Jana.
Thank you. I gotta sit there.
So I think mid-summer, we talked about some of those changes that we wanted to suggest for you to consider to the liquor ordinance, kind of modernizing it and kind of reacting to what we're seeing in the real world right now. I think we're there. Jenna's had an awful lot on her plate right now, but I think we're there. We really want to probably focus on the first 3 bullets for right now. But, all right, Jenna.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I don't have proposed language for you today. I just want to also kind of, again, feel the temperature, see if there's suggestions that you want us to focus on. I think our main area of focus, and I think what we should sort of start to work on, is the expansion of liquor sales or service in the agritourism sector here in McHenry County. I think we also had talked about wanting to expand the sort of winery license that we have to also include a brewery type distinction, which we don't have right now. And to make sure that we're good on the sort of outdoor serving. Because of COVID, we've seen, a sort of a redefinition of what dining is in McHenry County, and we want to sort of make sure that our liquor ordinance is up to date with what people are expecting of our restaurants right now. One question I did have, just of note, when we did the winery license many years ago, maybe 8-9 years ago, the direction from the county board was to be very restrictive with the sort of production and on-site service of any type of alcoholic product in the county. And so, it's really, winery is restricted to just the making of alcohol from fruits. Obviously, with beer, we would sort of expand that a little bit. Do you guys want to also go to a distillery type of distinction as well, or do you want to just sort of stick with brewery?
How does this help us when we do, pardon me for kind of the various distinctions. I kind of assumed we would have had a brewery and a distillery distinction, and I've already addressed it. What does that give us, though? What can we do?
If Crystal Lake Brewery wanted to start the Heartland Township Brewery right now, we don't have a tool for that.
And Rush Creek is part of Harvard then, right?
Yeah.
And then Shadow is part of Woodstock. Okay, so okay, I'm with you.
We could have, obviously, businesses or restaurants that serve beer, but they couldn't have on-site production.
Okay.
We also have, you were starting to get to this, I think, a little bit about on this definition of winery. When we originally created the winery license, it was a big step to get us there, and that was about 10 years ago. But there was a real interest in, I think, in control yet.
Yes.
And it was kind
Yes.
of a poison pill to put in there about the percentage of local grapes that need
Yes.
to be in there.
Yes.
I think we should revisit that. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I think we should be aware that it's a hard hill to climb.
There's a reason we
Agreed,
don't have
agreed.
wineries
I
right
agree
now.
about that. That's unfortunate. Yeah,
Oh.
that curtails the ability to you know, to have flexibility in what you're doing. I mean, so, anyway, I'm glad that we're talking about that. Any other questions, Bob?
Yeah, how, I agree, I was not here when the winery came in after that to the county board, and I know that was the gentleman from Wonder Lake, John.
Your predecessor.
Yeah.
Hammerhand.
Hammerhand, yeah. He's the one that started that. He was adamant about the number of, the amount of grapes that were grown on the site. But how would you proceed with this? You know, we've done the zoning ordinance and kind of, it was presented, suggestions were made, and then we kind of walked through it at a committee meeting. You know, that was at the planning and zoning. Is that what you're proposing here?
Sure.
The same kind of way or format?
What I'm here today for is to, again, sort of gauge the temperature, see what you guys are thinking. I would then work on draft language that I would bring back to you for you to make changes or suggested changes before it went to the county board. I do think that in the last 10 years, so in the 10 years that I've been here, so when the winery licenses were being developed, we have sort of, as a county, had some sort of dramatic shifts in our regulatory scheme as it pertains to agritourism because of the UDO, just the sort of focus that the county board has had on businesses and accommodating businesses in the last couple of years as well. So I think that this is a natural progression to what we've already done with the UDO. It's more about, Peter and I have sort of used the term a modernization of the liquor ordinance, but I intend as well, because the liquor ordinance, it works in conjunction with the UDO and with the health ordinance. I've talked to sort of, I've talked to Patty Nam in the health department. I've talked to, when Dennis was here, Dennis and Adam Wallen, I'm sure will continue to cooperate. I want to sort of make sure that whatever we put into the liquor ordinance is consistent with the regulations that are already in place in the UDO and the health ordinance.
Okay, that makes sense. The other thing is, just reading through this and for this catering business, to do away with Bassett training. You know, I took the Bassett training. I think it's very educational. It's not an overwhelming class, class to take. But I would suggest that it stays.
I don't think that we ever suggested eliminating the Bassett
it's been-
certification requirement.
It's for the caterers.
Yeah, and so if you see that this is sort of broken into two, so what we're sort of anticipating is 2 waves of amendments coming through. The first wave, again, focusing on expanding the winery, the production types of things, because we have had agritourism type businesses who want to have some on-site production of sparkling apple cider, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So my first wave is really to sort of focus on that and make sure that we are, you know, having a seamless transition from the COVID outdoor seating and service moratorium, have a seamless transition into the new liquor ordinance. So focus on agritourism, making sure we're good on the COVID stuff, and then sort of moving maybe in the spring to taking a look at some of the other issues. And these are some of the more frequent issues that we get, the questions that we get, is the like banquet and the catering, the special event type of liquor issues that are coming up as well.
Then we have a couple of months till we get to wedding season, but that brings Kathy all kinds of trouble. There's a lot of people who are cleaning up barns and what, those weddings and
Can I
That's a big
get
issue there
Kelly
with-
first? She's been trying to
Sure.
chime in for quite a while here. Sorry, Kelly.
No, it's fine. So we get on the conservation district. I was just wondering, Jana, if you had planned to talk to them, if you're coming up with a specific one, specific ordinance directed toward them, or if you would like me to talk to them and relay ideas to you.
We can work
What's
together.
favorable
I
about
think that that's fine. Yeah, I do anticipate bringing forth an amendment that would contemplate a special category of licenses for the conservation district and the fairgrounds to sort of accommodate their unique needs.
Yes, Tom?
Okay.
Peter brought it up. My issue is with these, let's have a banquet in our barn, let's have a wedding there issues, which brings up the liquor license issue. Jana, you may know more about this, but where does the dram shop liability lie? If somebody gets in an accident, I don't party in my barn, is it the caterer who served the booze? Is it me who owns the property? That I see as a big issue.
Yeah, so that's part of the problem, right? Normally, if we would only license the caterer, we don't really have problems when caterers want to come in and do the alcohol because the caterers have the dram shop insurance. Frequently, premises will have also some type of premises insurance. Part of the process that we do when we review license applications is we make sure that the county is named as an additional insured. I'm not sure that makes too much of a difference, but we do verify that the insurance is appropriate. The issue that we have, I think very frequently now, is it's not like a banquet hall where you used to go and you go to the banquet hall and they provide the location and the food and the bartenders and the alcohol. When it's a barn, it's like, okay, I'll rent you my barn for $10,000, and then you bring your caterer in, and then you don't want to pay the caterer to do the alcohol, so you say, well, what if I just set up a wheelbarrow full of beer, and that's the reality of some of these sort of special events now. And the wheelbarrow full of beer, well, who provided that? Who did that?
Right.
That doesn't have dram shop insurance. So part of it is when we have a better developed regulatory scheme within our ordinance, that provides more protection because it gives us more power over those sort of situations. Right now, all I can say is, no, you can't do that. And people are probably doing it anyways.
Shouldn't we take it one step further and license the venue to make sure the barn has fire protection, bathroom facilities?
So those places have to, so under the UDO, again, like I said, they work in conjunction with each other. It would be a violation of the Unified Development Ordinance for someone to be utilizing a barn. It's not an ag exempt facility anymore if it's being used for weddings and that kind of thing. And once it sort of triggers those UDO, the building code requirements, then it's got to be sprinkled, it's got to have a certain number of bathrooms, it's got to have exit points, it's got to meet fire standards. That I think is more of a UDO type of regulatory scheme.
Thanks.
What about the bring your own events? I guess is that kind of what you were looking at with your
and so
wheelbarrow
that's
full of.
Yes, I mean, and those are the kinds of questions we're getting all of the time. And really, when you look at our ordinance, it seems to indicate that anytime there is sale or service to the public, that you would need to have a liquor license for that. Okay. Well, usually if it's a private event, that's not a big issue, like if it is a wedding or if it is this or that. It's the problem is when you have a waiter, a catering company, or that barn venue. That's a business. That's not, a private person serving alcohol at their house. Those people should be licensed. It's complex.
It is, because I've been to an extremely large event, with pretty big name music, and it was essentially a bring your own. You know,
Many
it's-
people will interpret the bring your own as, or will interpret the ordinance that as long as it's not a sale,
Yes.
you can do it. And as long as maybe the on-site people are not serving you, it's the sale and service component.
Right.
But if you're walking in with your own stuff and you're drinking your own stuff, that's usually okay.
Thanks, Jim.
All right?
All righty. Okay. Reports. No reports. No executive session, right? All right. Since we have no reports, no executive session, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Tom makes a motion, John seconds, all in favor say aye. Aye. Good meeting, long meeting.